The Senate will come to order, and Senator Todd will lead us in the pledge, please.
Good morning, colleagues and guests in the gallery. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to our great country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Majors, would you please take the roll?
Aguilar, Balmer, Baumgartner, Brophy, Cadman, Crowder, Grantham, Guzman, Harvey, Heath, Herpin, Hill, Hodge, Johnston, Jones, Kafalis, Kerr, King, Lambert, Lundberg, Marble, Newell, Nicholson, Renfro,
Excused?
Rivera, Roberts, Scheffel, Schwartz, Stedman, Toktrop, Todd, Uleberry, Zenzinger. Madam President.
Here. With 34 present, 0 absent, 1 excused, the Senate has a quorum. Motion to adopt the journal. Senator Brophy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the journal of Thursday, March 13th be read at length by Senator Hill.
That is a proper motion. All in favor of Senator Hill reading? Senator Brophy.
I'll withdraw that motion and move instead that the reading of the journal of March 13th be dispensed with and that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
That is a proper motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Senator Hill, you're off the hook. Committee reports.
March 13, 2014, Committee on Finance. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1003 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 13, 2014, Committee on Finance. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following Senate Bill 73 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 13, 2014, Committee on Finance. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1142 be amended as follows, and also amended before the Committee of the Whole favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. March 13, 2014, Committee on Finance. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1006 be amended as follows, and also amended before the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 13, 2014, Committee on Local Government. After consideration, the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1177 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. March 13, 2014, Madam President, the Committee on Education has had under consideration and set hearing on the following appointment and recommends the appointment be confirmed. Member of the Board of Trustees for Colorado Mesa University, effective December 31st, 2013, for a term expiring December 31st, 2016. Tillman Tilly, Bishop of Grand Junction, Colorado, a Republican, and occasioned by the resignation of Margot M. Pinto of Englewood, Colorado, appointed. March 13, 2014, Committee on Education, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following Senate Bill 150 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 13, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1054 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 13, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following Senate Bill 151 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 13, 2014, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following House Bill 1117 be amended as follows and also amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation.
Senate Services.
March 14, 2014, correctly engrossed Senate Bill 23, correctly re-engrossed Senate Bills 51, 117, 131, correctly revised House Bill 1152, House Joint Resolution 1011, and correctly re-revised House Bills 1077, 1103, 1188, 1208, and 1293, correctly enrolled Senate Bill 120, Senate Joint Memorial 1, and Senate Joint Resolution 18.
Message from the House.
March 13, 2014, Madam President, the House has postponed indefinitely Senate Bill 126. The bill is returned herewith. March 13, 2014, Madam President, the House has adopted and transmits herewith House Joint Resolution 1012 and amended as printed in the House Journal.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege for Senator Nicholson.
The motion is to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege for Senator Nicholson. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We'll proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by Senator Nicholson. Senator Nicholson.
Thank you, Madam President. I am joined by my colleague, Senator Gail Swartz, and we are asking our members to join us in celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Colorado Scenic and Historic Byways Program. Members, we may disagree and debate many things in this chamber, but one of the things that we do not disagree on is how truly beautiful Colorado is. And the Scenic Byways and Historic Byways Program has helped us to celebrate that Colorado beauty for 25 years. Today, in the chamber, we are joined by many of the commission members, byway board members, and the communities in the byways areas. They have been guiding travelers to experience and be inspired by Colorado's treasured places for many, many years, and we wanted to offer this tribute to them to celebrate their 25th anniversary.
Mr. Majority Leader, would you care to make a motion for Senator Schwartz to have a moment of personal privilege? Sarah Heath, we need a motion to grant Senator Schwartz a moment of personal privilege. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you. I move we proceed out of order to grant Senator Schwartz a moment of personal privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Senator Schwartz is granted a moment of personal privilege out of order. Senator Schwartz.
And thank you, Madam President, Mr. Majority Leader. And again, I also join in welcoming our very strong representatives of the Colorado Byways Project. If you have a moment to review what we have as an online resources as well as printed resources that highlight and our byways throughout the state of Colorado, it really is a showcase of Colorado's beauty. I want to thank those that have worked, especially in Senate District 5, because we have so much beauty to showcase. And thank you for your efforts, your hard work, your coordination with the Colorado Tourism Office and our Heritage Tourism Office. We are really building, I think, resources that can be accessed by everyone traveling throughout the state, especially our iPhone apps or our online apps that people can find where they can go and stay and visit. And the more information we have for our byways, the more rewarding that experience will be for people visiting the state of Colorado, as well as our own citizens. So with that, I am grateful to join Senator Nicholson in welcoming and celebrating Colorado's byways on their birthday.
Senator Nicholson.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, if you would please recognize our community members who've joined us today, who serve in their own local communities to celebrate Colorado's beauty in our scenic byways areas. Please stand up and be recognized.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Third reading of bills. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 23?
Senate Bill 23 by Senator Schwartz and Representative Becker concerning an authorization of the voluntary transfer of water efficiency savings to the Colorado Water Conservation Board for in-stream use purposes and water divisions that include lands west of the Continental Divide.
Senator Schwartz.
And thank you, Madam President. I move Senate Bill 23 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Senator Toktrop.
Thank you, Madam President. And yesterday when I came up here to discuss the bill, I was wrong. And I will admit I'm wrong. I said once, I said that the Water District supported this legislation, and I got misinformation. They do not. This is one bill, and I never professed to be an expert on water, and I always go to my colleague from Adams County, Brighton, whenever there's water issues, because I consider her in our caucus the real expert on water issues, and we talked about this. And I did have a lot of problems with the bill, and when we discussed it, and after I discussed it with my good friend from Brighton, I do understand where we're trying to go. I still have concerns that down the road, this may be the proverbial camel's nose under the tent, but hopefully it won't be, because this, at the present time it's voluntary, and I do know that the Cattlemen's Association, you know, are neutral in the bill, and all the other groups, but I will be a yes, and again, I was wrong when I said water districts.
Question for the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 23. Are there any no votes? Senators Crowder, Grantham, Rivera, Marble, Baumgartner, Lambert, Brophy, Senator Hill, Senator Brophy, I already got you. With 26 ayes, 8 noes, 0. Mr. Minority Leader. (25 ayes, 9 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused). Senate Bill 23 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senators Jones, Nicholson, Kafalis, Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to House Bill 1152?
House Bill 1152 by Representative Lawrence, Senator Shuffle concerning passive surveillance records of governmental entities.
No.
Senator Shuffle.
Thank you, Madam President. I move House Bill 1152 on third reading for final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Any discussion? Question is the adoption of House Bill 1152 on third reading. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, House Bill 1152 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Mr. Majority Leader, Senators Ulibarri, Kerr, John, Crowder, Lambert, Kafalis, Newell, Todd, Jones, Lundberg, Herpin, Marble, Aguilar, Madam President Pro Tem, Senator Balmer, Senator Harvey, Senator Brophy, Senator Hill, Senator Stedman, Senator Toktrop, Senator King, Senator Roberts, Mr. Minority Leader, Senator Grantham, Senator Johnston. We're pretty close to the present roll call. Please add the president. Senator Nicholson. General orders, second reading of bills. Calendar, consent calendar, Senator Ulibarri. Oh. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I would request that we remove House Bill 1184 from the consent calendar and place it at the end of second reading of bills.
Okay, that will be removed and placed at the end. That's, was it House Bill 1184 to the end of general orders calendar. General orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, Senator Ulibarri.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the committee of the whole for consideration of the general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The Senate will resolve itself into a committee of the whole for purpose of considering general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Ulibarri will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Mr. Majors, would you please read the titles to all the bills listed on the consent calendar?
House Bill 1107 by Representative Tyler and Senator Newell concerning the authority of the Department of Revenue to offer taxpayers the option to receive electronic notices. Senate Bill 146 by Senator Schwartz and Representative Wilson concerning information that the Department of Transportation may consider when conducting a traffic investigation for the purpose of determining the appropriate speed limit for a portion of a state highway for which a municipality has proposed a speed limit alteration. House Bill 1169 by Representatives Dorr and Garcia and Senator Toctrop concerning the repeal of the Volunteer Firefighter Advisory Committee. House Bill 1129 by Representative Lebstock and Senator Hodge concerning the submission by a state agency to a local government of information related to an application to the local government to approve of a major utility facility. House Bill 1125 by Representative Mitch Bush and Senator Ballmer concerning the circumstances under which a Unit Owners Association may disclose contact information for members and residents under the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act.
Majority Leader Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the adoption of all the bills on general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and their associated committee reports, which includes House Bill 1107 and its Finance Committee report, Senate Bill 146 and its Transportation Committee report, and House Bills 1169, 1129, and 1125.
Is there any discussion on any of the committee reports? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of all reports to all the bills on the general order, second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the reports are adopted. Is there discussion on any of the bills listed on the general orders consent calendar? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of all the bills on general order, second reading of bills consent calendar. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we rise and report.
The motion before the body is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come back to order. Senator Ulibarri.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Majors, would you please read the report?
March 14, 2014, Madam President, your committee of the whole brings reports that under consideration the following tax bills being second reading thereof makes following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 146 as amended passed on second reading in order to gross place the counter for third reading final passage. House Bills 1107 as amended, 1169, 1129, 1125 passed on second reading in order to revise place the counter for third reading and final passage.
Senator Ulibarri.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for the adoption of the report.
Is there any discussion? Question is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 146 is amended, passed on second reading and ordered, engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1107 is amended, House Bill 1169, House Bill 1129, House Bill 1125, passed on second reading and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. General orders, second reading of bills, Senator Ulibarri.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the committee of the whole for consideration of the general order, second reading of bills.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The Senate will resolve itself into a committee of the whole for purpose of considering general orders, second reading of bills calendar, and Senator Ulibarri will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 16?
Senate Bill 16 by Senator Aguilar and Representative Moreno concerning the ability of certain healthcare facilities to provide emergency services outside a hospital setting.
Majority Leader Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we lay over Senate Bill 16 until Monday, March 17th.
The motion before the body is to lay over Senate Bill 16 until Monday, March 17th.
Excuse me, 17th if I said 16th.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill will be laid over. Mr. Majors, please read the title to House Bill 1108.
House Bill 1108 by Representative Primavera and Senator Toctrop concerning limits on co-payments made by a covered person for physical rehabilitation services.
Majority Leader Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we lay over House Bill 1108 until Monday, March 17th.
The motion before the body is to lay over House Bill 1108 to Monday, March 17th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill will be laid over to Monday, March 17th. Mr. Majors, please read the title to House Bill 1163.
House Bill 1163 by Representative Hollinghorse and Senator Heath concerning the clarification of the cap imposed on the enterprise zone investment tax credit.
Majority Leader Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1163, and there is no committee report.
The bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last year, this body adopted House Bill 1142, which was the result of over a year's conversation concerning the enterprise zone. And we had a lot of conversation along that. And we thought we had passed a bill that everybody had agreed to, and we did that, but we had an error in the drafting. The intent of that bill was to put a max cap for each year of $750,000 as the maximum any company could take in terms of the enterprise zone credit. And apparently we did not do that. At the committee, we had the drafter come in and discuss what in fact had happened. So all this bill does is to clarify the fact that there is a $750,000 cap on the enterprise zone in a particular year. It does not apply, and we did have some conversation in committee on this, it does not apply to credits that had been earned in 2013 and before. That can be added on to the cap, but caps going forward from 2014 would be capped at $750,000. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would renew my motion for House Bill 1163.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1163? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1163. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1163 is adopted. Mr. Majors, please read the title to House Bill 1060.
House Bill 1060 by Representative Mitch Bush and Senator Schwartz concerning the authority of a municipality to compensate members of Municipal Planning Commission.
Senator Schwartz.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1060 on second reading and ask for an aye vote.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the House Bill 1060 is an opportunity for giving simply the authority, without any requirement, to statutory cities to compensate their planning and zoning commissions. And right now, there are 267 communities in this state that are members of Colorado Municipal League, and 100 of them are home rule towns. Those 100 communities actually enjoy this opportunity to compensate should they choose, their members of their planning and zoning committees. What we have is trying to level the playing field in the balance of the other statutory cities to have at least this ability to compensate. It is simply a local control issue, and their opportunity to not diminish the spirit of volunteerism, giving back, being supportive of our communities. But we were able to hear from one of our students at the University of Colorado in one of their economics programs that there is an issue that, and was documented in her report, was an issue that we're experiencing in some of our smaller rural communities, that those individuals that are not necessarily part of the building, planning, engineering community have the ability or the discretionary time to devote to the planning commission. Planning commissions are critical in the process for our communities, and this is not to authorize necessarily salaries, but what they might deem could be a matter of compensation. It could take traveling as much as 2 hours to go from one portion of a county to that meeting that will take monthly, weekly time out of their schedule and their ability to participate. So this is something that was brought forward by one of my rural communities, recognizing that especially in some areas where we have pressure on our growth and development, that planning and zoning board members need to be broad in their representation and have diverse representation, and find ways that we can accommodate the busy schedules and challenges of individuals' lives, and helping them with giving this time. This is not a diminishment of any spirit of supporting communities, volunteering communities. It is simply recognizing we need to diversify, in particular this board, and it is leveling the playing field because this authority already exists in our home rule cities. In 100 home rule cities, they enjoy this authority. It is permissive, and it is simply leveling the playing field and letting counties with local control make a determination if this is a tool that would be of value to them. And I ask for an aye vote on House Bill 1060.
Senator Balmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I rise in as a respectful no. I was a respectful no in committee. Let me tell you why. I think that planning and zoning commissioners, and I realize this is just for the statutory cities, home rule cities are going to do what they want to do, and I realize that there's a local control argument that's been made. Well, let's talk about that local control argument. When we argue for local control, what are we arguing for? Are we arguing for the power of the local government to impose their will on the citizens of the local government? No. Whenever you make a local control argument from this well, I hope that you're making it because you want to defend the citizens of that locality from their government. So the local control argument, when we're giving more power to the local government, is hollow, in my humble opinion. Okay? Let's talk about that a little bit more. I have watched planning and zoning commissioners literally take away the rights, the property rights of people that are working very hard to just make ends meet. And why am I concerned about planning and zoning commissioners? Because they're not elected. They don't have any concern sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they have no concern at all about what effects this has on normal people's lives. And sometimes the elected city council people have to rein in the planning and zoning commissioners. How many times have you seen that? I've seen it a number of times. And why do they rein in the P&Z commissioners? Well, the argument usually goes where the city councilman goes, how in the heck did you reach that decision? And you know how they reached that decision is because they didn't have to listen to constituents because they were not elected. They were appointed by the city council. And now we're going to start paying them if this bill is passed. I realize that some municipalities have already chosen to do that underneath their home rule authority. Now, I think that there is a long line of people wishing to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission in most municipalities. There are some, I'm sure there are some small municipalities where that's not the case. But I doubt that there's ever a vacancy on the Planning and Zoning Commission, even in the smallest of municipalities. So, ladies and gentlemen, when we make a local control argument, let's be sure who we are protecting. We are trying to protect Coloradans from their governments. And I hope that you will see that it's not the right thing to pay people to do these jobs. I can tell you from the bottom of my heart that I have served, I'm sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. I've served with you, the other 34 of you, I've served with some of the people in the House. Some of you have had to endure me in both chambers. For that, I say God bless you. I have yet to meet a person here in the legislature who is doing this for the money. Now, it is true that we were here in committee hearing from a witness that said, oh, there's a direct correlation. There's an absolute correlation between some of these people on these planning and zoning commissions trying to make money off these decisions, and I think that is purely false. I do not think that we have people all across Colorado in these municipalities who are doing this for the money. I do not think that we have planning and zoning commissioners anywhere in Colorado that have bad motives. I think they are all doing it for the right reasons. I think that the legislators that serve here are doing it for the right reasons. They're certainly not doing it to make money. I have been very impressed with the public servants. Senator Heath is an example of a public servant who gave a good bit of his life to the military, gave a good bit of his life to public service at all different levels, and he never did it for the money. I know Senator Heath. He didn't do it for the money. And so when people come to the Capitol, or when you hear arguments that planning and zoning commissioners are going to have warped motives if we don't pay them, I want you to challenge that. I want you to challenge that from the bottom of your heart, because that is flat out wrong. That is flat out wrong. We have public servants who serve at every level of government. I don't know the percentage, but I would guess that a very high percentage of them are not paid. School board members, for the most part, are not paid. Do we think that school board members have bad motives? I've never met a school board member that has an ounce of bad motive. I have never met a school board member that was not doing it for the kids, that was not doing it for the right reasons. So I encourage you, from the bottom of my heart, to think seriously about this bill. This is not a local control bill. This is a bill to create the financial incentive to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is exactly the opposite of what we want. So I encourage a no vote, and thank you for your patience with my argument. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Balmer. Just as a quick note to members, remember, please refrain from naming members from the well.
Oh, you're right, Mr.
Just as a matter of rule. Senator Crowder, and then we'll go to Senator Talktrop.
I was waiting my turn on the next bill and listen to this, and I thought I'd come up. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to stand in support of this bill. I did work on a planning commission. I chaired it for a number of years. And the dedication of the people that worked on that board is simply for the fact of bettering the county in which they live in. I do not believe that I know I certainly did not have an ulterior motive to redirect or to sway any. My job was there to listen to the individual and the community. And keep in mind, the county commissioners have the final authority on this. So basically a planning commission, all they do is they recommend either for or against. And that does carry some weight, but these are very dedicated people, and I do not believe that they are agenda driven. So with that said, the only reservation I have is that the municipalities can afford it, and my assumption is they would have the ability to opt in or out. But I stand I stand with the planning commissions of the state of Colorado and all the municipalities as well as the counties. So I have no problem with this bill at all. Thank you.
Senator Toktrop.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, you know, this bill is a may. And it just gives the authority that the cities may compensate folks on their planning commission. When cities and counties look to find qualified people to serve on these commissions, sometimes it's extremely hard. And the people that do serve, they do many times it's a hardship to them, and I think it's really important that whatever we can do to make sure that we get qualified people on the planning commissions in the cities, statutory cities, is very important. And any little bit of compensation that they may provide is very helpful for the cities to get the qualified people. It's not going to be a lot of money. My husband serves on the planning commission in Adams County, and his compensation is not even what he would even begin to think about making an hour. But and he doesn't do it for the compensation, but some of the other members, it does help them, and it would probably help the cities to get the qualified people for the little bit of compensation that they may give, and I'm absolutely in support of this bill.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, members. I rise in support of this issue. We did hear this in committee, and I think what was being referred to was a witness who was fulfilling a class assignment. A young woman from CU who's taking an economics class that is required to choose a bill, come down, testify on that bill, write a paper using an economic term or concept that they're learning about in class. And in this instance, it was interesting. We were very supportive of her involvement. Wanted to give her kudos for coming down here to the Capitol and exercising her rights, but by no means was this an expert witness. In fact, the individual, upon questioning, had very little knowledge about what a planning commissioner is. I come from a home rule city, served in local government for a number of years. As a home rule city, we already have the ability to compensate our planning commissioners and our urban renewal authority members and any others in which we feel that it takes an extraordinary amount of time in order to do the work. It's not by any means in which a person's going to be making a living off of this. It's modest. And it also doesn't come in conflict with their ability or their desire to serve. So I just wanted to bring that perspective, having heard the testimony in committee, and I rise in support.
Senator Balmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just heard someone, am I on? Okay, yeah. Just somebody wants me to talk quieter, so I'm going to, this is the quieter version of David Balmer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the comments that was made in committee was that a particular person who had served on a planning commission said that there was a time that they actually had to go out the back door of the government building that they were meeting in because their decision was so unpopular, and they were worried that the crowd that had gathered to argue against their decision was going to hurt them. And I certainly understand that those kinds of things do happen. My concern is to try to give a little bit of voice to those citizens that are so concerned. I have seen time and time and time and time again where the planning and zoning commissioners, and I'm not picking on any one specific city, but if you'd like a list, I'll give you one, where they have had absolutely no concern. They just want to ram that project through. They want to make sure that that project happens. They want to give that a complete rubber stamp onto the city council and put the council in the hard position of having to overrule them. We have seen it time and time and time and time again. And the planning and zoning commissioners, if it's a hardship for them to serve, then I ask them to stop serving. because I would like to see some planning and zoning commissioners that are fair and would look at all sides, and we do not need to absolutely follow the recommendations of staff every single time. How many times have you attended a city council meeting and you've heard the planning and zoning commissioner say, we were following the recommendations of staff? How many times have you heard that? It is mentioned dozens of times every single city council meeting. I would love it. It almost never happens. It probably never happens. I would love it if there was a planning and zoning commissioner or a city councilman that said, you know, we had great concerns about what the staff was recommending, so we overruled staff. Boy, wouldn't that be wonderful to hear? Wouldn't it be wonderful if the staff didn't make the recommendation to begin with? Wouldn't it be wonderful if the Planning and Zoning Commission said, you know what? This is ruining a lot of people's lives. Why don't we just not do this? Now let's find someplace else in the city or county where perhaps this could be done where it wouldn't be quite as controversial. I would like to hear some more stories where we're not having to worry about planning and zoning commissioners walk out the back door because they have so angered so many constituents. How about we try to figure out ways to do things where the citizens are asking for it? The citizens actually want it, instead of ramming it down their throats. Local government is something we should be concerned about. We give them power when we pass bills like this, and we do that because we trust them. In this case, I'm asking you not to trust them. And I appreciate your listening to my somewhat modulated voice. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any further? Senator Crowder.
One quick comment. I think the bill is about compensation to the members of the Planning Commission. You know, you're going to have these problems wherever you go and whatever you do, but I can guarantee you as a Planning Commission chair, there was never a rubber stamp. But there is one other thing I failed to mention. I live roughly 15 miles from town, and I was compensated for the mileage at that point already. So, but anyway, I still stand in support of this bill. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Schwartz.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. And I so appreciate one of my committee members making the argument that this is why we need diversity on planning and zoning commissions, that we need to have the regular citizens be able to not do it for the money, but actually maybe find a way that we can help make it easier for them to serve. And we know that's being done. City of Lakewood pays $100 a month to their county, to their planning and zoning commissioners. We're not getting enough diversity, people outside of industry, to serve on these P&Zs in our smaller communities because we have a smaller pool of individuals that we can select from. So with that, this is for cities. It simply does level the playing field, totally at their discretion to identify what compensation might be an opportunity to, again, encourage more folks to step up and serve their communities on their P&Z. With that, I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1060. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Majors, please read the title to House Bill 1007.
House Bill 1007 by Representative Hamner, Senator Crowder, concerning the authority of county governments to limit certain forms of fire and in connection therewith permitting county governments to restrict agricultural burning during periods of high fire danger and to prohibit fireworks activity during the summer season.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I bring before you House Bill 141007, and I move the committee report as well as the bill.
To the local government committee report. Senator Crowder, to the local government committee report. You just have to explain what was in the report.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's a little bit, for some reason, it's hard to hear you down here.
Is that better?
That's a lot better. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee report has basically it has a technical amendment basically that can be explained by just, there was one letter left out of that. Page 3 strikes basically the entire fireworks assembly of this bill. And on page 105 and 106 just replaces a danger. And that's basically the extent of the committee report. And again, I move the committee report.
Is there any discussion on the local government committee report? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the local government committee report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. To the bill, Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically what we're doing is this is somewhat of a contentious bill in agriculture. You know, there's those that think that agriculture will have an unlimited ability to burn. And, you know, what I base this on, as a farmer myself, I do use the practice of burning. But what normally when things get to the point where they can ban campfires and other entities within that county, our burning is over, because we normally burn in the spring and that's about it. And we've had situations in my area, and I'll give you one of them. An agricultural producer had lit a fire in a very dry situation, and I'm 15 miles from town, and the fire was right across the road from me. But by the time the fire was out, it was to the limits of the city of Alamosa. So I think that it's time that we need to realize that there are consequences in fire around populated areas. And I think it's time that we gave the county commissioners the ability to perform their duties, in which they say, okay, you know, if the conditions are too dry, there should be some restrictions in the agricultural business. So with that, I would, you know, what I'm trying to do is take a common sense approach on this, and I think it's something that will work, and I think it can work with the agricultural industry. And because, you know, I will never do anything to hurt the profession in which I make a living at. So with that, Mr. President, I just move it forward.
Thank you. Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I didn't hear this bill in committee, but having spent much of my life, if not directly around the agricultural community, and I live on a farm right now, and a few years ago we had a fire on the place. And all the regulations in the world would not have fixed it. In this particular case, they were working the corn stalks after the corn had been harvested in preparation to bale them up and use them in that respect, and one of the tools had a bad bearing. Spark lit the field, and because it was a windy day, the fire took off. And we're not going to stop fires by these regulations. I'll tell you what we will do, though, is we'll be just that much more of a nagging nuisance to the ag community that is overburdened with regulations as it is. And just like every other sector in our state, the more regulations, the more expensive everything gets, and the less economic activity you end up with. So if you want to go ahead and punch the ag community in the gut just one more time, I'd say pass this bill. Because it's not broken. I've seen, my dad and I were custom harvesters for 20 plus years. Believe me, we've seen a lot of field fires for a lot of reasons, and again, I can't think of any regulation that would have controlled any of them. I watched farmers go through controlled burns, and before any regulations, the farmers understood this much more than we do, what the consequence is. And to empower the counties to come in with stiffer and stiffer regulations, I know what we'll end up with. We'll end up with a lot of farmers shaking their heads in disbelief over one more set of rules. Who do we think's in charge of this state? We, the government? Well, that's the case in a police state. But in a free society, you need to stop every time you put one more of these rules in place, or these opportunities for the counties to put more rules in place, and ask yourself, is this absolutely, positively necessary? Do we have to go down this road again and again and again? You know, we get the OSHA requirements from the federal government, which are absurd in the agricultural community. You get all of the other regulations. Must we do this again? It's not broken. Yes, there are fires, and yes, there will continue to be fires in the ag community. And in my, well over half a century of experience out in the fields of Colorado, as I say, I've seen a lot of fires, and I've never seen a one of them that was, I know it can happen through negligence. That's a possibility. And guess what? They're going to be negligent with or without those rules. But you put these rules in place and you just hammer down on the people of Colorado that much more. Must we always micromanage everything? Just because there is an issue or a problem, does it have to be curable by the government coming in and tying the hands of the people again? Vote no.
Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do ranch for a living. I do set fires. I do burn my ditches. But you know what? I don't think we at the state level needs to be telling the counties what to do, because they already have their own rules and regulations. They already put out fire bans. When it gets dry, they implement the fire bans. You're not supposed to burn. Anybody that's ever been around fire, anybody that's ever burned any fields off, burned any ditches off, they know. They know you're not supposed to set a fire when the wind is 40 miles an hour. We know that. The counties know that. I'm with my good friend Senator from Larimer County that says this is micromanaging at the state level. There's no reason for this piece of legislation. The counties already do this. They already control it. And yes, there are going to be fires from people burning ditches and from people just taking care of brush. But again, this is a local control issue. It's already controlled at the local level. We at the state do not need to add another regulation on the counties. They already do it. So I'm going to be a no vote on this, because I think the counties already have it in hand, and I don't think we need to be adding more regulation to the counties. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We heard this bill in the Wildfire Interim Committee, and we heard that there is a discrepancy across the state. This is an issue not of the state telling what the counties have to do. It's saying that the county commissioners have the power to restrict. So it is driving it down to the local level. In my own district, I have 8 counties, and I have one county that insists it already has this power. I have another county that says, no, we need this power. I had the Cortez fire chief tell me one time at a town hall that this is of grave concern to the people in Cortez. So the good senator from Alamosa is really just carrying a bill that came out of the Wildfire Interim Committee. I don't think it's micromanaging. I think it's letting the counties make this decision. Again, some of them already feel and act as if they do. But what we did here in the Wildfire Committee is a county such as Summit County, former State Senator Gibbs was the one who came and said that he feels strongly, as one who is dealing with wildfires in the Summit County area, that this needs to be clarified in the law. So I support it. I understand that particularly in Senator Crowder's district, where the drought is the most severe. It's out on the plains. I think that some counties do need it very clarified that they have this authority. So I support Senator Crowder and don't believe it's micromanaging.
Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So members, I think it's really important to understand the temporal aspect of this, when this takes place, how often it takes place. Typically, a sheriff will make this recommendation for a burn ban. And just for the whole burn ban, it's a real restricted period of time because having talked to my sheriff, what they're very concerned about is that people pay attention to these things. So if they're out there and they're not really needed, people will disobey them. So they're very careful to restrict it in the first place. This is even more restricted than that. This is red flag warnings and fire watches, which will mean likely red flag warnings. Now, what's a red flag warning? There are a number of variables that go into it, but one is how dry is the fuel. 1,000-hour fuels, 3 to 8-inch fuels is usually what they measure because those are pretty steady. So those have to be ultra dry in a drought or a very dry time of year. Secondly, forecasted temperatures and humidity, which usually go together. And then finally, wind, and it's always the wind. So it's a very restricted period of time that they have the option of putting this kind of ban in place. And I've seen these happen. I've seen agricultural burns get out of control on red flag warning days. Yeah, not very smart to do a fire then, but it happens. And when those happen, that wind carries a fire, especially in the grass fuels, the fine fuels, really, really fast. And you can have major property damage in very little time. So this is a very restricted time period that makes it an option for the sheriff to recommend to the county commissioners. And I think it's a great tool because it's not just the person lighting the fire for agricultural purposes, it's other people's property and the response from the fire departments that have to come running out. So thanks for all three of you who are listening right here. And I ask for a yes vote.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you. I wanted to assure the good senator from Boulder I was listening, and I wanted to just underscore the fact that this bill does limit this to red flag warnings or high wind warnings issued by the National Weather Service. So it's not left to somebody's discretion. There is a very tight definition as to when this would apply. Thank you.
Senator Brophy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And members, I get the arguments on both sides. I'm going to ask for a no vote, and let me tell you why. It's because this is Colorado, and our weather is unbelievably variable. There can be, you guys know this, there can be forecasts for 6 inches of snow and it ends up being 60 degrees. There can be forecasts for wind and it ends up being one of the most beautiful days you have ever seen. And so you put that variability together with the other thing that is important for agriculture, for farmers and ranchers, and that is this. Timing is everything for us. When it is time to start irrigating, we have to have the ditches burned. You have to do it before the water runs, otherwise you can't get it done, and then you end up with a mess of trash and everything else going down your ditch. It causes unbelievable problems, trust me. That is the case. So when you put that variability together with the necessity of timing that we have in agriculture, you end up needing flexibility. And that's the problem with this bill. It takes away the flexibility. Because we can have red flag warning day after day after day after day, and all of a sudden burning is banned, but we have a beautiful day where there's no wind, and I have 6 hours to get out and get the ditch burned, but I can't legally do it now because it's a red flag day and it's been banned. This bill takes away the flexibility that we need to actively manage our farming and ranching operations, and that's why I'm going to ask for a no vote on it. The system that we have now works as well as anything can work. And believe me, listen, this is important. We're not talking about people who are judgment proof. Ag producers have assets. They are very careful not to let things get out of control because they're civilly liable if they've done something negligently. It's not like we're reckless. We have too much to lose. We have our heritage, our lives, the things that have been passed down to us by generations that preceded us. And we're not going to risk those by recklessly burning on a high wind day. At the same time, we need to have the flexibility to manage our operations. So I'll ask for a no vote on this bill.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I've heard everything, and I appreciate everybody coming up and talking about this. But the reality of what we have now is we have a different situation. We have drought. And the drought that we're experiencing in southern Colorado is something that I've never seen before in my lifetime. And I think what we need to do is keep that into account. And, you know, my intent of this bill was to not so much change agriculture as it is now, but to unify it throughout the state. There's certain areas that do not have this policy, and there's certain areas that do. So we're trying to normalize it. But, you know, there's not an intent to hurt agriculture because I am agricultural. And, but this drought is something that I'm not accustomed to, and nor is anybody else in here. But anyway, I just asked for a 4-aye vote on 1007, and then when it starts raining down south, then we can change it back. Thank you.
The motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1007. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1007 is adopted. Mr. Majors, please read the title to House Bill 1184.
House Bill 1184 by Representative Vigil and Senator Grantham concerning conservancy districts that are organized for the purpose of preventing floods.
Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1184 and the Local Government Committee report.
To the Local Government Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Local Government Committee report essentially was fixing everything that the House didn't get right. I'll explain more about the bill here in a little bit and what it did, but we're trying to clarify a lot of the language from what the House tried to accomplish, and I believe substantively we accomplished that with the Local Government Committee amendments, and I'd ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Local Government Committee report? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the Local Government Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the report is adopted. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Majors, please read the title to L011.
Amendment L011, House Bill 11.
Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I said, the committee report accomplished what we needed it to substantively, but after we got that accomplished, the drafters came back and said we can do this with a lot more clarity as far as the intent. And so here's the intent of what we're trying to accomplish with the bill. This is about the Pueblo Conservancy District and trying to raise the number of actual members that represent on this Conservancy District board from 3 up to 9. And what was the intent of this coming from the House was to make it so that we have a 4-4-1 membership on this board, 4 appointed by the city, 4 appointed by the county, with one of those county members being required to be from the Metro District of Pueblo West, at least one of those members. And the language that we came out of committee with accomplished that, but it wasn't strikingly clear that is, you'd have to read it very carefully, in other words, in order to get to that conclusion. The amendment that we're working on here, L011, actually makes it very plain in reading what we are accomplishing here with the membership of this board, including those 3 that are the holdovers from the current board and how they will be, their terms will continue as intended to the end of their terms, and then the 9 directors will be appointed from that point forward for various lengths of terms and from the various entities, the County of Pueblo and the City of Pueblo, including Pueblo West as one of the members, at least, of the members of the county. And I would ask for an aye vote on L011.
Senator Grantham, would you like to move L011?
I move L011.
Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of L011. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. To the bill. Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I've essentially explained what the bill did with this, just changing the numbers of the directors that are on the Pueblo Conservancy Board, and would ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1184. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Majority Leader Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we rise and report.
The motion before the body is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We will rise and report.
The Senate will come back to order. Senator Ulibarri.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Majors, would you please read the report?
March 14, 2014, Madam President, your committee of the whole basically reports that in consideration of the following tax bills being second reading thereof makes following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1163, 1060, 1007 as amended, and 1184 as amended, passed on second reading in order to revise, place the counter for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 16, House Bill 1108 laid over until March 17, 2014, retaining their place on the calendar.
Senator Ulibarri.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for the adoption of the report.
Is there any discussion? Question is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. House Bill 1163, House Bill 1060, House Bill 1007 as amended, House Bill 1184 as amended, passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 16, House Bill 1108 laid over till March 17th, retaining their place on the calendar. Message from the House.
March 14, 2014, Madam President, the House has adopted and transmits herewith House Joint Resolution 1013.
Introduction and consideration of resolutions. Ms. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 16?
Senate Joint Resolution 16 by Senators Grantham and Nicholson and Representatives Becker and Wright concerning the renaming of the tunnels located within Clear Creek County and commonly referred to as the Twin Tunnels as the Veterans Memorial Tunnels.
Senator Nicholson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, or Madam President. I move the resolution SJR 1416 and the Transportation Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Transportation Committee members voted unanimously to support the resolution as it was written.
Any discussion, Senator Todd?
Oh, with the insertion of Clear Creek County Veterans Coalition.
Discussion on the committee report, Senator Todd.
Thank you, Madam President. And I just wanted to substantiate that the fact that we did vote this important Senate joint resolution out of committee on a consent, and we decided not to put it on the consent calendar because it is so very important. We wanted to be able to allow people to speak to the importance of renaming the Twin Tunnels to recognize and honor our veterans. And so that's what the Transportation Committee report was about, and it didn't say that, but it said But what I wanted to say is, in addition to what the report gives, is that we were also very supportive and honor the recognition, and I rise in support of not just the transportation report, but also Senate Joint Resolution 16.
Any further discussion on the committee report? Are there any no votes on the Transportation Committee report? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, the committee report is adopted. Senator Nicholson.
Thank you, Madam President. I renew my motion to support Resolution SJR 1416 and we ask that it be read at length.
Mr. Majors, would you please read Senate Joint Resolution 16 at length?
Whereas Colorado has a proud and distinguished history of dedicated military service by men and women of this state whose courage, heroism, and sacrifice preserve the liberties and democratic way of life set forth in our state and federal constitutions. And whereas Colorado benefits significantly from the presence and military service of more than 60,000 men and women in our state who serve in the United States Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard, the branch reserves, the Colorado National Guard, and the Civil Air Patrol. And whereas, in addition to active members of the armed services, Colorado is the proud home of more than 426,000 military veterans who have served their country long and well and who bring great honor and distinction to the state. And whereas Colorado is home not only to active duty service personnel and veterans, but also to the countless family members of these men and women who display the same dedication, courage, and sacrifice. And whereas Clear Creek County, one of the original territorial counties in Colorado, has a long history of involvement with active duty service personnel and veterans. And whereas the roads and highways that run through Clear Creek County have seen the footsteps of militia soldiers going to serve in the Civil War and the vehicles of soldiers going to serve in World War I and World War II. And whereas the Clear Creek County roads have seen the return of these soldiers who would build the state's mining industry in the 19th century and the ski industry in the 20th century due to the skill and knowledge of the 10th Mountain Division troops. And whereas the portion of Interstate 70 that runs through Clear Creek County, and that includes the tunnels commonly known as the Twin Tunnels, was part of the original Victory Highway established in 1921 in honor of the American forces who lost their lives in World War I. And whereas this section of Interstate 70 was also designated as a Blue Star Highway in the 1940s in honor of those who served during World War II. And whereas Colorado should also never forget the sacrifices made by its 94 men declared missing in action or prisoners of war while defending the principles of liberty and justice during the Cold War and the conflicts in Korea, Laos, and Vietnam. And whereas between 1950 and 2006, 641 Coloradans were killed in action and 101 Coloradans were wounded in action, and the state should never forget the sacrifices of those 742 soldiers. And whereas in times of conflict around the globe, it is particularly appropriate to recognize the Coloradans in all branches and components of the armed services who serve around the world to protect the security and peace of our nation and other nations. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Senate of the 69th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that the tunnels located within Clear Creek County on Interstate 70, commonly referred to as the Twin Tunnels, be designated at the east and west entrances as the Veterans Memorial Tunnels, that the Colorado Department of Transportation may accept and expend gifts, grants, and donations for the purposes of the initial placement of signs to mark the Twin Tunnels as the Veterans Memorial Tunnels, that the Colorado Department of Transportation may explore a cooperative agreement with the Board of County Commissioners for Clear Creek County for the maintenance of the markings for the Veterans Memorial Tunnels, and that such signage be installed and erected at the conclusion of the planned construction and widening of the so-named Veterans Memorial Tunnels. Be it further resolved that copies of this joint resolution be sent to President Barack Obama, Governor John Hickenlooper, Colorado Department of Transportation Executive Director Don Hunt, United States Secretary of Transportation Anthony Fox, Lieutenant General Michelle Johnson, Superintendent at United States Air Force Academy, Major General H. Michael Edwards, Adjutant General of Colorado, Major General Paul LaCamera, Commanding General of 4th Infantry Division at Fort Carson, Colonel Daniel Wright III, Commander of the 460th Space Wing, Buckley Air Force Base, Colonel William LaCory Jr., Commander of the 50th Space Wing, Schriever Air Force Base, Colonel John Shaw, Commander of the 21st Space Wing, Peterson Air Force Base, the Colorado Board of Veterans Affairs, the United Veterans Committee of Colorado, Mountain States Chapter of Paralyzed Veterans of America, the American Legion Department of Colorado, Department of Colorado Veterans of Foreign Wars, the Clear Creek County Commissioners, the Idaho Springs City Council members, the Mayor of Idaho Springs, Mike Hillman, and each member of Colorado's congressional delegation.
Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, thank you, and please be seated. Members, it's an honor to be able to bring this resolution forward to you to rename the Twin Tunnels the Veterans Memorial Tunnels. We get to hear every year, especially there at the beginning with honoring all of our veterans, the resolutions that we normally run. And here we have an opportunity to put a visual reminder in front of literally millions of people every year who travel that highway, whether it's for summer recreation or whether it is for winter recreation and skiing, traveling, vacation, tourism. Reminding all the folks that come to visit our great state the honor that we bestow upon our veterans. Each of us, I have heard many times over in the last 4 years, give homage to our veterans, and some have very particular and personal stories when it comes to that. And we have several veterans right here in our midst and amongst us. It's an honor to you and an honor to those in our own families, those in our own communities, those that we've never met, that we now have this reminder from here forward of just remembering everything that has been done for us, and the sacrifices made for us in so many ways, be it in the theater of war across an ocean, or whether it be right here on the home front, as it mentions in the resolution during the Cold War even. You know, it's an interesting choice of where to do this, and calling these tunnels the Veterans Memorial Tunnels. If you were listening, or if you've had a chance to read the resolution, just seeing the history there in Clear Creek County and this thoroughfare going through the mountains, and the importance that it has not just to Colorado history and Colorado transportation, but to our veterans, and the ties that it has to veterans from the Mexican-American War, ties to World War I, to World War II, the Blue Star Highway, the Victory Highway, both acknowledging World War I vets and the conflict of World War I, and the veterans and the conflict of World War II. We now have the opportunity to honor all of our veterans there at that one little pinch point where everyone, as you know, if you have to travel that highway very much or at all, there'll be plenty of time to read that sign as you're driving through. Maybe we'll get that solved here in not too long as well. But folks, you know, I mentioned actually to the members of the Transportation Committee as we were going through this, and I've mentioned it at the mic here and over in the House as we're going through the Armed Forces resolutions and Veterans resolutions at the beginning of each year. My affinity for that HBO program, the Band of Brothers, and just the great story that it is and the heroes that it depicts just in that one little snapshot of one particular regiment there during World War II. And I was just going to mention, you know, of note, as I've talked about this with Senator Heath many times, about the greatest generation, and it is rapidly going away. In fact, 2 of those members recently have passed away from the Band of Brothers. Most recently, just I think a week and a half ago, Sergeant Bill Garnier, if you remember that story, just passed away. And in November of last year, Earl McClung also passed away. And if you didn't know it, Earl McClung actually made his home down in Pueblo West. And he was right here amongst us, as they all are. They walk amongst us, these heroes who we now are able to honor with the changing of the names of these tunnels. And so, Madam President, I will, without further ado, ask for an aye vote in your support for this resolution, and thank my colleagues very much.
Thank you, Senator Nicholson.
Thank you, Madam President. We hope that every veteran that drives through the tunnels that are now to be named the Veterans Memorial Tunnels will see the name and recognize from that name our appreciation of their service and their sacrifice. And we also hope that everyone who is not a veteran will be reminded that we owe a great debt to our veterans, and that this is a symbol of our appreciation, but our true appreciation has to be in the real benefits and services that we provide for our veterans when they come back home.
Any further discussion? Yes, sorry, Senator Herpin.
Thank you, Madam President. I certainly rise in support of this resolution. I want to tell you a little story. I began my military career as a citizen of Colorado. I enlisted in the Navy in 1965 and ended my military career as a member of Air Force Space Command in 1985. Many of you know I wear a blue star on my lapel, and that's for my son-in-law, who's currently serving as a Chief Petty Officer of the United States Navy. I don't have it. I was privileged to attend a Phi Theta Kappa lunch earlier this week where a young woman from Pikes Peak Community College was being inducted into their honor society. Not only is she a full-time student, she's a mother, and her husband is deployed in the military. And I said, "Do you have a pin to honor your husband?" She said, "No." So I gave her my pin so that she could wear it to honor her husband. I can think of no better tribute to the veterans who have served our country in the active duty military, who are currently serving, than to do something so obvious to people who travel from out of state to enjoy our ski areas and other recreational areas that travel on I-70, than to do this for our veterans. So I wholeheartedly support this and I know you will also support it. And thank you to my fellow veterans who are serving here today.
Senator Schwartz.
Thank you, Madam President. I just rise in support. I really want to thank the sponsors of this resolution. Having passed through that area thousands and thousands of times, it's going to be brought to everyone's attention that travels through that portal to Western Colorado, the importance of the service and the importance of our freedom, and just brings this awareness we all should have. We wouldn't have what we have without that, the sacrifice that's been made in our behalf. But I'd also like to acknowledge the fact that rural America, I think, has given more than its fair share when it comes to serving our nation. That you look at as a percentage of a community in the rural parts of our state and other states, as a percentage, it is those areas that have contributed more than their share. And I think Castilla County was identified as a percentage of their population had the highest degree of service, level of service in the Second World War. And with that, again, our state will continue to acknowledge that service, and we need to not only value what Colorado's about, but we need to value what our country is about. And I want to say thank you to the sponsors, because the thousands of times I will be traveling that area in the future, this is going to be a wonderful remembrance.
Senator Kafalis was next.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of the resolution, and I just wanted to quickly share. Yesterday in our Senate Health and Human Services Committee, we had a gentleman testify who was 96 years old, a World War II veteran. The gentleman was as articulate as anyone could be, and I share that just to remind us that those who have served, and even going back to World War II, even though their numbers are going down, and he was Senator Crowder was telling me I should mention he was Army, but they're among us, and they're continuing to do the good works. They're among us physically, and certainly they're among us in spirit. Thank you, colleagues.
Majority Leader Heath.
Thank you, Madam President. I know it's hard for people and my colleagues to believe, but I do have a barber. Fred, who's owned the Silver and Gold on the Hill in Boulder since 1947, is still cutting hair at the age of 93. And when you walk into his barber shop, and my friend, I'm going to probably break the rule, but the bill sponsor here, Senator Grantham, you probably ought to come with me one day, because in his barber shop he has so many relics from World War II. And it's an amazing place to visit, and yes, to get your hair cut. But this will, I think, have particular significance to someone like him, and and certainly he is a member. He fought virtually in every battle in the Pacific, and can tell you stories that and regale you with stories that frankly would never end. But it's to him and to certainly his generation, that the greatest generation, that this will mean is significant. So I appreciate both of you doing this. I appreciate CDOT, and what they're doing on those tunnels is an amazing job too. So when that's complete, at least we will have made some contribution to opening up that highway. But this is a wonderful thing to do, and I thank you both for doing it, and to Fred.
Senator Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this was heard on the 22nd in committee, and that's the day my father turned 87. He is a World War II vet. I have a hard time believing what it would be like to be barely 18 and deployed to the Pacific on an aircraft carrier as a replacement on a crew that was killed by a kamikaze. He is a spring chicken. He was a replacement guy at 87, right? And he's at the end of the war, young person. I kind of honored him with this thing. And also, the thing that I think we often forget is what happened, at least in that war, and many wars, or all wars, I suppose, are the people back home and the sacrifices they made, especially in World War II. I have, my mom did a lot of that. I have a gas coupon still that my grandfather had, who ran a taxi company, that they just couldn't drive, and you turned in all your metal, you turned in all your paper, you had limits on the food you could buy. And so there are a lot of sacrifices my mom made and her family made as well, and so we ought to honor them as well.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I come down to the microphone to support this measure, and I want to give an observation as well, because 2 or 3 years ago, I don't remember exactly when, but we approved the designation of part of Highway 56 that goes through Berthoud as the Sergeant Justin Bauer Memorial Highway. And he, of course, was a young man who gave his life in Iraq. And I believe that's quite fitting. Every day that I drive past there, I think of him and think of the overall sacrifice that our veterans have made. And it just kind of tweaks me a little bit in that it doesn't cover all the other veterans overtly, as this does, and that's what I think is appropriate here, is on this particular stretch of highway where everybody finds themselves at some point in time, if they live in the in Colorado or, come and go through the Denver area, somehow you'll be there. And for it to encompass all of the veterans, I think is the appropriate step. And if you'll forgive me, I'll give you a little personal story on this, in that we're discussing the greatest generation. We think of veterans, and of course it's all the wars, but those veterans from World War II are particularly fitting for our acknowledgement because of so much they did in so many ways. And excuse me, it's a bit of a cold, but I might choke up as well, because I'm sure as many of you know, my own father will be memorialized in a service today, and he was not a veteran. But I want to tell you why. Because there were two brothers back on the farm. Now, this was not in Colorado, it was in Wyoming, but he and his brother were pretty close in age. His brother was actually a little bit younger. And in 39, well before Pearl Harbor and the U.S. was brought into World War II, they both figured that they ought to serve their country. But they knew they had to do it at different times so that they could keep the family farm going with their dad. And I don't know if they flipped a coin or just how they determined it, and I don't know who won or lost by their determination, but it was my uncle who went into service first back in 39. And yes, it was Armies, for anybody who would care about that, but he also ended up in the Air Corps. Because there wasn't an Air Force back then, there was an Air Corps. And flew over the hump, from India to China on, I don't know, dozens of flights that he piloted. But I see this is an appropriate fitting honor to men like him, and I kind of put my dad in that category, and then I knew that he was lined up, except the draft board pressed him into service on the farm and wouldn't let him go anywhere else until the war effort was done. There are a lot of people who gave an awful lot for the defense of our country, for the support and the preservation of our freedoms. And these are called veterans. And that's what we're honoring through this resolution and permanently setting in place to remind us all of that sacrifice that has been made, and is continued to be made by so many. I certainly commend the sponsors and recommend an aye vote.
Senator Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support this measure with the caveat that we don't have enough roads, bridges, facilities in this state to rename and adequately thank those that have protected our freedoms and at times made the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you. Question is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 16. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 1 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 16 is adopted. Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Madam President. I would ask that the current roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Is there any objection? Saying none, the current roll call will be added as co-sponsors to Senate Joint Resolution 16. Thank you. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 19?
Senate Joint Resolution 19 by Senators Hodge and Grantham and Representatives Singer and Buck concerning the establishment of March 16th as Liberty Day.
Senator Hodge.
Thank you, Madam President. We move SJR 19 and ask that it be read at length.
Thank you. Mr. Majors, would you please read Senate Joint Resolution 19 at length?
Whereas the liberties we have today were established in our founding documents, namely the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution with its Bill of Rights. And whereas James Madison was a contributing author of the Virginia Plan used during the Constitutional Convention of 1787 as the model for forming a constitution to replace the Articles of Confederation. And whereas, as one of the authors of the essays now known as the Federalist Papers, James Madison helped educate the public about the aims, merits, and contexts of the new Constitution. And whereas, although sometimes referred to as the father of the Constitution, Madison insisted that the document was not the offspring of a single brain, but the work of many heads and many hands. And whereas James Madison kept written records of the debates of the Constitutional Convention of 1787, giving us insight into both the impassioned debate and difficult compromise necessary to create and adopt the Constitution. And whereas James Madison served in the United States House of Representatives from 1789 until 1797, during which time he introduced into Congress the Bill of Rights, which was ratified by the states in 1791. And whereas James Madison served as Secretary of State from 1801 until 1809, and as President of the United States from 1809 until 1817. And whereas with his life's work, James Madison helped create the bedrock of liberty this nation was built upon, and in his thoughtful leadership and authorship, we have a blueprint for effective governing. And whereas Sunday, March 16th, 2014, is the birthday of James Madison, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the 69th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that Sunday, March 16th, 2014, be proclaimed Liberty Day in Colorado, and that March 2014 be proclaimed Liberty Month in Colorado. Be it further resolved that a copy of this joint resolution be sent to Jane Goff, Elaine Gantz Berman, Deborah Scheffel, Pam Mazanek, Marsha Neal, Angelica Schroeder, Paul Lundeen, Robert Hammond, and Carrie Taylor Markle, the members of the State Board of Education.
Thank you. Senator Hodge.
Thank you, Madam President. The resolution does a very nice job of talking about who James Madison was. I'm going to talk a little bit about why we have Liberty Day. Back in 1996, Andy McCann and his late wife, Kathy, formed a nonprofit to help educate Americans, all Americans, but especially the next generation, and they focus on fifth graders, about the Constitution and its contents. It's all about working with educators and community organizations to ensure that every child in America knows and understands the essentials of our founding documents. They put together complete educational resources on the U.S. Constitution. They have a teacher's packet. They bring kids down here to confront us and see what we know about the Constitution. It's a program designed to help people understand why we're where we are today. And I had my aide just search Liberty Day on the internet yesterday, and apparently, but I haven't seen them, Craig has kids from 4 schools down here today, as does Englewood and North Glen. So if what kid comes up to you with a little tiny book of the Constitution, they're probably with Liberty Day, and they're going to ask you something about that Constitution, and I hope you know the answer.
Thank you, Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Madam President. It's an honor to be able to sponsor this with Senator Hodge, and the text of the resolution does give a great overview of the life of James Madison and of course his contribution to our founding and the recording of the proceedings of the Constitutional Convention, and what a remarkable man he was amongst remarkable men. He was very correct when, as it says in the resolution, that this document was not the offspring of a single brain, but the work of many heads and many hands. They came together in a common cause, and the product is what we have today, the Constitution of the United States. And of course, it did not begin there. Just doing a little bit of reading on my own, Senator, and looking at the idea of liberty did not begin or end with the Constitutional Convention. It came in much earlier than that. It was from the Declaration. We see that as an outpouring of the desire for liberty. We look even before that and we see for decades, we see the proclamation of liberty throughout the colonies and the desire for liberty. We see it preached from the pulpits. We see it pounded upon the days of state houses and colonial assemblies. We see it as their chief goal and aim and desire. And I think it is great that we can honor Liberty Day and be able to forward this idea of teaching our kids more about our founding, more about our Constitution, more about our founding documents. I had the experience just a couple weeks ago of speaking to a group of kids ranging from 4th grade all the way up to 10th grade. It was a homeschool group, and we were talking about the Constitution, about the Bill of Rights. And there is nothing more rewarding than being challenged by a group of elementary, junior high, and high school kids when it comes to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It is refreshing that there are kids that want to learn about this, and they are learning about this, and they are good at it, and they understand it, and they know it. And to be able to do this even more, just better for us and better for our country when our kids understand our founding documents, and Liberty Day is a great way of making that happen. Thank you, colleagues, for your support on this resolution.
Thank you. Question before the body is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 19. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 19 is adopted. Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move the morning roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Any objection? Seeing none, the morning roll call will be added as co-sponsors to Senate Joint Resolution 19. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to House Joint Resolution 1013?
House Joint Resolution 1013 by Representative Wright and Senator Aguilar concerning commemoration of the 150th anniversary of the University of Denver.
Senator Aguilar.
Thank you, Madam President. I move House Joint Resolution 1013. We don't need to read it at length. Members, this last week marked the 150th anniversary of our own University of Denver, which is the oldest independent university in the Rocky Mountain region of the U.S. The university has a beautiful 105-acre campus in my district that is an arboretum. It has more than 11,000 students, of which 6,000 are pursuing master's and doctoral degrees. And the university offers more than 170 undergraduate programs of study and more than 120 graduate and professional programs, including the Sturm College of Law, the Daniels College of Business, Joseph Corbels School of International Studies, the Daniel Felix Ritchie School of Engineering and Computer Sciences. And particularly over the past 25 years, the DU campus has been transformed due to the efforts and generosity of DU's 16th Chancellor, Daniel Ritchie, who guided the university from 1989 to 2005, including launching a groundbreaking initiative in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so DU, since 1997, has opened 19 new academic, residential, and administrative buildings with remarkable growth, helping prepare our children for the 21st century. The current Dean, Coombe, will retire in the summer of 2014, and I just ask that you join me in commemorating the many contributions and achievements of the University of Denver as we celebrate and observe its 150th anniversary.
Thank you. Any discussion? Question for the body is the adoption of House Joint Resolution 1013. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Joint Resolution 1013 is adopted. Senator Aguilar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we add the morning roll call as co-sponsors to this resolution.
Any objection? The morning roll call will be added as co-sponsors to House Joint Resolution 1013. Consideration of House amendments to Senate bills. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 63?
Senate Bill 63 by Senator Marble and Representatives Sane and Williams concerning the mandatory review of existing executive branch agency rules conducted by each principal department.
Senator Marble.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate concur with the House amendments to Senate Bill 63. I really have to address the Senate at this time. I think we have to put an end to the abuse that our bills go through in the House. I am dismayed. I'm heartbroken. I really feel like I was backed into a corner on this one. They actually had the audacity to amend Senate Bill 63, which passed unanimously, I might add, through the Senate. They amended line 27. Yeah, they did. They had the gall to strike 24-4-103 2.5 and substitute 24-4-103 2.5 semicolon and capitalize and.
Is there any discussion?
This has to stop. This is just abuse. We need to form a coalition with every bill we send to the House, and we need to put a stop to this abuse of our bills.
Thank you, Senator Marble. Any discussion on her motion to concur to House Amendment, Senator Stedman?
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I ask for an aye vote. I rise in support of semicolons.
Senator Marble.
Well, why didn't you say so when it came through the first time?
Are there any no votes on the motion to concur to House amendments to Senate Bill 63? Seeing none, that's 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, and the Senate concurs with House amendments to Senate Bill 63. Senator Marble.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for repassage of Senate Bill 63.
Any discussion?
And I vote.
Question for the body is the readoption of Senate Bill 63. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 63 is readopted. We got a lot of co-sponsors down there already. Are there any additional co-sponsors on Senate Bill 63? Senator Kafalis, we've got you. Okay, committee reports.
March 13, 2014, Madam President, the Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy is had under consideration as that hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be confirmed. Members of the Colorado State Fair Authority Board of Commissioners for terms expiring November 1st, 2017. Michael Cafaso of Pueblo, Colorado, Democrat residing in the 3rd Congressional District and the County of the Fair, who has expertise in finance through management level experience in banking, appointed. David J. Galley of Pueblo, Colorado, Democrat residing in the 3rd Congressional District and the County of the Fair, who has expertise in finance through management level experience in banking, reappointed. March 13, 2014, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following. House Bill 1002 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 13, 2014, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following. House Bill 1030 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 13, 2014, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following. House Bill 1222 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 14, 2014, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following. House Bill 1092 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 14, 2014, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following. Senate Bill 143 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. March 14, 2014, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following. Senate Bill 123 be amended as follows, and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. March 14, 2014, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following. Senate Bill 92 be amended as follows, and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. March 14, 2014, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following. House Bill 1160 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar.
Signing of bills.
March 13, 2014, the President has signed Senate Joint Memorial 1, Senate Joint Resolution 18, House Bills 1215, 1224, 1293, and House Joint Resolution 1011.
Announcements.
Go ahead, Bill.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, President Carroll. Folks, a lot of you have asked about Tommy Lucero, and I'm sorry I didn't give you an update yesterday, but came through the surgery great, over 5 hours of open heart surgery. Pretty amazing text messages that I got from them during that time, but they wanted to make sure that we shared with you their thanks for all the thoughts and prayers and well wishes and cards and flowers and everything that have showed up at the hospital. So thanks.
Thank you. Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to make an announcement. The Colorado Stone, Sand, and Gravel Association will be having their networking event next Tuesday, the 18th, from 5:30 to 7:30, and that will be at the Denver Press Club on Glenarm. So please attend that. It'll be next Tuesday, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Denver Press Club. Thanks.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. For all the math students out there and people interested in math, I'm just going to announce that it is Pi Day today. And if you're not sure what I mean, look at the visual I brought up with me, but happy Pi Day to you.
Mr. Majority Leader.
PI, I think. Thank you, Madam President. Senator Lundberg. Senator Lundberg, I hope nobody minds my mentioning your name, but I know all of us are going to be thinking of you this afternoon at your service for your father. And we know how difficult it is, but we'll all be with you. Thank you. The Joint Budget Committee will be meeting on adjournment and this afternoon as scheduled. And with that, members, another good week behind us. Thank you all very much for all of your cooperation. And with that, Madam President, I move we adjourn till 10 a.m. Monday, March 17th.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The Senate will adjourn until 10 a.m. Monday, March 17th.